The views and comments expressed on the following radio program by its hosts and their guests do not necessarily reflect the views of rmconair.com or its affiliates. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to the Knowledge of Self Radio. I'm your host for today, Jerule Allah. I'll let the other hosts let you know who they are.
Peace. My name is Ture Allah. Peace.
Peace. Jerule Allah.
Okay, so first and foremost, we want to plug our sponsor, which is Global Position Solutions. Today's topics that we're going to be dealing with, first and foremost, we're going to deal with what is black. Is it the way you speak? Is it the texture of your hair? Or is it much, much more? We're going to deal with are Asians and so-called Latinos black? What is race? Is race a social construct? How is language, phenotypical traits, and geography used to separate original people? One thing before we move on, I have a quote here. I think it's relevant to the topic of the day. The quote is... divide and rule, the politician cries. Unite and lead is the watchword of the wise. Okay, so how y'all see that?
Divide and rule. I think one of the things that's going to come out in today's show is how original people are divided, not only through the authorships of history or the people who write history, but also what comes as a result of when people change maps, give people names, and we carry those names. But we are going to talk a little bit about what should unify us on today's show. Shakil, how you see it?
Man, first, I think that's a great quote. I like the last part where it says, "Unite and lead is watchword of the wise." And so I think, like you were saying, that's definitely what we're going to be building on in the show. Is how to unite and become one, and instead of being separated, so often as we are.
Peace. Yeah, no question. Mm-hmm. So before we get into that, we're going to actually deal with some current events that were definitely interesting to us. So we'll go ahead and add on to Ray.
All right, I wanted to talk a little bit about the VatiLeaks scandal coming out of the Vatican. And basically, this is coming on the heels of the current Pope Benedict, who's stepping down on February the 28th. And this news is coming out of CNN. And just to break it down for you, there's a major publication in Italy called La Repubblica, and it reported that 3 cardinals in the Vatican were caught up in some sort of scandal involving, and I quote, sex, money, and power. And of course, the Vatican is denying these allegations. They're saying it has nothing to do with the Pope stepping down. It's primarily due to the fact that he's ill. But I think it says a lot in terms of religion and how, regardless of whatever culture you're a part of, you're still responsible for doing the right thing. And it's not, of course, to indict anyone until they're found guilty. Apparently, the person who leaked this information, his name is Paolo Gabriele, and he was sentenced to 18 months in prison. But then the current Pope pardoned him, and he was released from prison. So it'll be interesting to see how these events unfold over the next few months or so.
Right. You think maybe he was released, kind of like, hey, man, I let you go. Hush, hush.
So as part of it, man, as far as a scandal goes, you have a situation where people can be paid to be silent. And another source that I read, it said that some of the information is bound in a red leather book that's being held by some of the superiors in the Vatican right now. So it'd be interesting to see what comes up later.
Wow. Yeah, indeed. Well, you know, they're definitely used to locking people up all the way from Galileo to...
Right.
Yeah, that would definitely be interesting. I wanted to hit you guys with just the drone planes. I don't know if you guys are aware, but recently over the Vikings, well, not so recently, but over the Vikings Packers game, there were drone planes flying over, along with armed TSA agents. Yeah, in the game with guns on the sidearms, you know, like Wild West Cowboy. Wow. Yeah, shoot 'em up dudes. Man, I just think, you know, drone planes in America, one, just raises a lot of constitutional issues. Because, you know, they're used to spy on you. They have everything from being able to fly over your house and shut down your internet access, shut off your phone. Yeah, they can hack into your computer all while flying over airspace. You'll never even know what's happening.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, and they're expensive, too. You know, they say that they were like $4 to $5 million, but that's not an accurate number, of course. They want to try and downplay it. It's more upwards to 120 mil. Yeah.
Just for a drone train.
For a drone plane. For just one drone plane. But then, you know, you got to ask yourself questions like, okay, you got 120 mil to spend on a drone plane, but how much money do you have for school systems?
Right.
Where are the books at?
Right.
You know, so I just think in so many ways we have our... we put our shoes on before our socks kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we're going to keep it moving. Before we get into the actual meat of what we're dealing with today, I wanted to, build a little bit about one of the larger unknown, contributors to Black history. We all call him the Father. His birthday just passed on the 22nd. Basically, to me, he was a very prominent figure in the sense that he didn't come with the actual, the message necessarily like the rest of, so-called civil rights activists came with. His approach was first and foremost to the youth. Most of the information that, civil rights activists brought were to adults. Right. But the wealth of any nation is the baby. So, he was prominent, and his message was really about unity. So definitely it's relevant to what we're going to be dealing with today.
Well, he did try that, though, right? To bring the message to his peer group. Right. But, it's kind of hard to change people who are set in their ways. And so he reached out to the youth, right? And like you said, the power's in the babies, huh?
Yeah. I think one of the things that I wanted to share with the audience is that, when we're talking about the Father, who is Allah, that's what he was referred to as. That's who he is. That's who we see him as. He was one who taught us who the true and living God is. And it's kind of difficult for some people to embrace the idea of man being God. That was the last show. But essentially, look at today's media. Look at what our children are being fed. Besides the fact that we're being taught, to be a thug, a beast, a devil, a criminal, all these different things that are coming out of popular culture and media. Here's someone who, over 40 years ago came out with a message that you're God. So we're asking the people in the audience to understand and don't get us mixed up with some people who are trying to sell you something. All right, we truly live this culture. This is what is in our heart, and it's not that we believe it; it's that we know it. All right, and all the information that we're going to talk about today and on shows in the future is going to support the idea of what our true origin is, as far as us being God and earth. So I want to say peace to the Father, Allah, everyone in our nation, the human families of the planet Earth, all civilized people that we're reaching out to. Peace.
Peace.
Yeah, peace. Peace to Allah.
Okay, so let's go ahead and get into it then. First segment is going to be dealing with what is race and what is black. According to the Etymology Online Dictionary, race is defined as the people of common descent, from Middle French, raza, race, breed, lineage, possibly from Italian raza of unknown origin, Spanish, Portuguese raza. Original senses in English included wines with characteristic flavor. So right there, it kind of, it doesn't really give you too much of a scientific, I guess, definition of what race is. So
Right.
the biggest thing for me, I think, when you look at race, or you look at anything, they should have some sort of scientific reasoning and rationale to it, so especially if it's something that you practice and that you're involved in on a daily basis. So I don't see that here so far. So
I know a couple of the definitions that I looked at said everything from competition against someone else, running a race, and like you said, it really lacked the scientific definition of what you would use to try and define race. You know what I mean? If you're gonna call it that and try and classify it, it definitely doesn't have the scientific classifications or anything like that.
Right, and race is just another label that I think many people have embraced without actually looking deeper into it. And I know that some of us have come up around people who've said there's only one race, the human race. But considering some of the behavior of men and women on Earth, you actually question that. But we do want to question. We do want to emphasize the idea that we do teach the oneness of men and women, and that's what's more important than some of these simple labels. You wanted to?
Yeah, there was actually another part of it that stood out to me. There was a definition of race in like 1500 AD, and it dealt with a group of people with a common occupation. So if me, my yellow brother, and my brown sister all did the same occupation, based on this definition, we are the same race. So how does that really make sense? You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, we getting ready to go into a break here. So we'll continue this dialogue when we get back. Peace.
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 Peace. Here. We're back for the
Peace.
Knowledge of Self Radio. I'm Jerule Allah.
Ture Allah.
Peace. Ture Allah.
Okay, before we get back into what we were dealing with, I wanted to give a shout out to another one of our sponsors, which is EBS Multimedia. You can check them out on Facebook.com/ Earthbound Sound.
Yeah, peaceable Kim Allah.
Yeah, peace. Okay, so yeah, we're getting back into it. Basically, before we ended the break, we were dealing with race. Now we're going to get into the definition based on definition.net of black. Black is defined as harmful, evil, wicked, indicating disgrace, sullen, or hostile. So how do y'all see that?
I didn't know I was such things.
Yeah.
I smile at people. I try and be kind of nice. Yeah. I guess I should redefine my personality and act according to this definition.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, when you look at the definition, it doesn't really give you a full indication of what black is.
It doesn't.
How could black be these things, really? Let's be honest. I think it's important that we really look at, because these are things that we see on a daily basis. Like, you look in your dictionary, this is what's being put in the dictionary.
Right.
People put the dictionary almost on the same level as like a Bible or a holy book. You know what I mean? What's in the dictionary has to be correct. So
right.
I think we should really reassess what we're looking at and what we're dealing with, so then we can, not be misguided so much. So yeah.
I think one thing about black, looking at art, when you deal with black is all colors, right? And when you look at white is the absence of color. So within black, there's a lot of different shades that will be considered black if black is all colors.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's key, because that's kind of what we're going to be building on the show, right? Is how black has different shades of black, and it existed everywhere in different colors, huh?
Right. To me, when you deal with black as it relates to people, it just means that, you have a group of people who have, based on the phenotypical or the certain attributes that we all carry, black people would encompass all of those. So you have some black people who have, darker skin. Some might have medium color skin, light skin, straight hair, curly hair, all these different attributes. So it's all encompassing, just like, Jaquil said about the black as it relates to art and color. You know what I mean? So as we move forward, we'll get into the second segment, and we're going to be dealing with Africa and Africans.
So, Pace, this is part of the show that I really like. When we sat down and built this, a couple of questions that we wanted to hit you with is, why do we call ourselves Africans, and what is the said origin of the word African? So, some people, if they were born in America, they refer themselves as African Americans. Mm-hmm. When you encounter other people from different continents, different countries, especially if they're from Africa, they will refer to us as American. So let me begin by saying the fact that we're saying that we are African American is basically an oxymoron. So what an oxymoron is basically giant fried shrimp. The two just don't, they do not relate. Right. Okay, so which is why we hit you with the idea that we are black. So in saying that, I wanted to give you a brief background about some of the history, at least some presupposed history about where African came from, because there are a whole bunch of pieces of information out there that says Africa came from here, came from there. Right. But essentially, let's start with a Roman general by the name of Scipio Africanus. So you notice the last name Africanus relates to the idea of African. So this was during the Second Punic War, and we're talking about 218 to 202. Okay. So to bring you up to speed, Scipio Africanus was a lead general in the Roman army, and he opposed the famous Libyan general Hannibal, who was an original man. So, Libya is in northern Africa. Now, after he was able to defeat or overpower Hannibal, it's said that Africa was named after him. That's one story, okay, going back to antiquity. So now here we are in modern times, we're saying that we're African, so that means that in some way or unknowingly, we are aligning ourselves with a Roman general. So again, that really doesn't make any sense.
Right.
It's like if you have a child and that child decides to name you.
Right.
Doesn't make sense, Because I say that because, Africanus, he's a Caucasian man. Caucasians have only really been on the planet for 12,000 years at the most, So for them to name us who have been here for millions of years, it's kind of like, doesn't make sense.
Right. How do you do that?
Right.
Under whose authority?
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we know it's his story, right? When they're talking about history.
Right.
And the second reference, and actually when we started researching this was another name that came up, Leo Africanus, which would be a little bit more, not necessarily modern, but not as far back in ancient history as Scipio Africanus. So Leo Africanus, his birth name was Hassan al-Wazan. He was of Jewish and Moorish ancestry, and he was credited with exploring the interior of Africa. And through his literature, he gave the world during that time a really good description about what Africa looked like, the customs and the cultures of the people. But it's alleged that he never really traveled into the interior, but actually talked to people that lived in the parts that he was supposed to go further into the interior.
So he set up a trading post.
Right, exactly. Exactly. So, again, this would be another reference to the idea of Africanus. So whether or not it's a title, the whole idea is that we do have to make connections between what we identify ourselves as and the history of that label. It's very important. So I
know earlier.
Yeah, go ahead.
We were building, and the first guy that you mentioned, Scipio Africanus. I did some research, and it looks like he was a governor at one point. So I know that you were saying that he also fought in the war, and after that time he became in the war. But I wanted to make mention or give people something to look up, is that at a time there was a province in what is now called Africa, called Afri, and he was the governor of that province. Right? And so, that's something interesting too, because it could have been a type of thing where after some time had went by and then they fought these wars and whatever, they decided to name it after him as being, okay, well, you were the first dude here holding it down for Rome, so we're just going to name the whole thing after you. Like you said, there's lots of different stories where the name comes from. We're dealing with his story.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with that is that, when you say you're African, you're only really dealing with a small portion of land.
Right.
As it relates to the global scale. So you're only dealing with the history relating to that piece of land. But when you look at it, when you really look at people, like we originated based on science. They say, people originated in the Nile Valley region of Africa, and then we traveled out. So all the different places that we traveled would really be considered Black history. All the places that we called home connected to Black.
Indeed.
You know what I mean? So
yeah.
Like when you identify yourself with one piece of land, you're kind of closing your world down. Just like Jacques Hill said in a couple shows back about putting yourself in that box of religion. It's similar to that.
Right. Yeah, true indeed. That's a nice connection.
Yeah,
it is. Because like you said, that's that one little landmass. And I guess if you're going to connect yourself to any landmass, you might as well choose a big landmass.
Right. Right. Yeah. So what were the landmasses in terms of like the original civilization, as far as what we were building on earlier?
Oh, right. There was a point in time. Actually, I have a book that shows a map. Science Itself. I don't know if you guys can see that, but. Right here, if you look at the Triassic area, maybe kind of hard to see, but I'll just talk about it. Basically, there were two landmass. You had a northern landmass and the southern landmass. The northern landmass was called Laurasia, And that's I'll spell it for you guys. It's Laur and then Asia, Asia, right? And so what's interesting, some research that I did about that is that it's a combination of words, right? So part of that is Liberia, Lybia, not to be confused with Liberia. And that was supposed to be said to be the name of Africa as a whole, that part. And then, in the Eurasia or Eurasia is Europe, and then what we now know as Asia. So I think that's interesting of all the land masses to keep their name, Asia and Europe, although they call it a continent, and by definition,
Right.
It doesn't fit that description, but so that's where you get those name landmass from. Well, one place where I've seen the connection.
Yeah. So we were building on the continental drifts in terms of how all the continents divided, and for our viewing or listening audience, it's really important for you to look into Pangea, because that will be one of the terms associated with the continental drifts that Jaquil just built on. And the idea is when you begin to study a little bit deeper in, history and the sciences, you get a better idea of, your identity. Because I can only tell people I'm an original man, I'm black. I don't identify myself with African, and I'm always honest. That's the first letter of my name, Ture, truth. I called myself African up until 2010 when I came into the knowledge of myself. So this is something, it's a long process.
I know we were building about that before, and Whoopi Goldberg actually had a quote, I think I was telling you guys, where she said, everyone calls themselves African American, but you have over 400, 500 years of history here in America, that you have to deal with before you even think about trying to be African. So I think a lot of times, if, like you said, it's that box. So you say you're African American, you miss, all the history that was here in America that your people have done.
Right.
And then, like you said, it started at the Nile Valley, and so it broke out and went to other places. So all that is black history too, and that's your history.
Right. So yeah, we're gonna take another break, but we'll get back into this dialogue when we get back. Peace.
Peace.
Peace. I have.
Peace. Yeah, we're back here on the Knowledge of Self Radio. I'm Jerule Allah.
Peace. My name is Ture Allah.
Peace. Ture Allah.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to those in the chat room, Bo Kim and True Father. Peace.
Peace to you guys. Peace.
Yeah.
Appreciate you guys watching.
Yeah. So now.
And peace to Honesty Earth too.
Okay. Peace, Earth. Yeah. So.
That's my black woman watching the show.
Oh, is it? Okay. That's tight. Okay, so yeah, now we're gonna go ahead and get into the next segment, and we're gonna actually deal with Latinos and the whole science behind them. So we'll let Jaquil, drive that discussion. Okay, yeah, and also the number to call in, if you guys want to call in and build with us, is 323-965-1600.
Indeed.
So Jaquil.
Right. So we have a definition for Latin, and Latin, as it's defined in the Old English, comes from Latin Latinus, belonging to Latum, the region or Italy around Rome, or pertaining to Spain. So I think that's an interesting definition. Because to call yourself Latin at that point, you're basically saying you're the property of Spain. So you're putting yourself under slave bondage.
Right.
And we know that words are powerful, right? We read that verse the other day, John 1:1, in the beginning was the word. And everything that was created has to come from that word, that vibration. And so that means a lot and holds a lot of weight when you call yourself a Latino or Hispanic.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, that's real interesting. So yeah, let's move on.
So one of the things I wanted to point out is why I do not call my brown brothers and sisters Latinos, okay? Because originally we started this show, and I'm saying originally in black for a reason. So black is original. So how are you equated with Europeans? You are equated with Europeans because of two things. Number one, you speak Spanish, okay? That language comes from Spain. The second thing is you are identifying yourself as a Latino. Now, the guy just said that would make you the property of Europeans. So why would you call yourself Latino? Now, when I teach my students, or in the highways and byways of life, people in our nation, we say we're one people, where we will refer to you as black. All right? So if a brother is Jaquil's complexion, right? You're not going to call him a Latino. You're going to call him black, right? But if he breaks out into fluent Spanish, then there's a little confusion, right?
Right.
So we don't get caught up in those types of labels. He's an original man, all right? So I'm asking people out there to just study, because you don't have to take this for face value.
Which, although my woman is a brown seed and speaks Spanish, my Spanish is definitely Latin.
Yeah. I think the bottom line to all that we're building on today is that when you start calling yourself all these different names, you're dealing with separation. And we have to really learn how to come together as people, because when you really do the knowledge to the history, it connects us. It brings us all together. That we can all share a common history. You know what I mean? But looks like we have some callers. So, peace, caller. You're on the line.
Peace.
Who's calling?
Peace.
This is the God, Life Allah. How are you?
Oh,
Peace, Allah.
Peace, God.
All right, everything good?
Yeah, we're peace. How you doing?
Okay. Everything's peace, God. I'm right here in San Diego right now, watching via satellite or via video. And just wanted to touch on today's reality, you know what I'm saying, as it relates to the wisdom culture, and why is the culture not wise? I'm talking about the collective culture, since y'all brothers are talking about the black and the brown uniting. I know we talked about the division, we talked about the various histories, and you speak in Spanish because your people's from Spain, but we need to be speaking English right now in order for the people out there to really understand why is it important for us to come together. We have said in previous shows, as well as you brothers talked about, there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of serious things that the black and brown need to come together on. We know why the division is taking place, because the devil is teaching that in social media, in the schools, how to be separate, be it from the gangs to the issues at hand, to the communities. My question to the panel is this. Since our lessons talk about those living on a continent, right, living in a certain place in North America, and they all are savages, and there are trading posts that was being bought, and people on this particular side are strayed away from civilization. How do we get them back to be civil and working together with one another, and how do we deal with the reality of the basis of what is needed in order for us to come together for a common cause?
Well,
and that's my question.
First and foremost, from my perspective, I think we got to start dealing with reality. We got to get away from the beliefs and those types of things, and we got to deal with actual fact. So that's why I think this show is so important, because it improves how we are one people. And now, once we realize that we are one people, then we can come together for one common cause and start to build. But until then, we're gonna keep saying, "Oh, you're Latino, you're this, you're that, and then there's never gonna be a collective, you know."
Right.
And just to add on, Life, I think one of the things that I've been really successful at just in my classroom, and that's like an isolated area, so to speak. But again, when I refer to my students as black, I allow it to be an open forum for people to respond and say what they need to say, and then we have a discussion. So it does begin with children. Outside of that, we do have to talk to the gang members. We have to be a little bit more, not a little, we have to be way more aggressive as civilized people to reaching out to gang members, because we know what's going on in Compton in terms of the black and brown conflict in the streets in Los Angeles and a variety of other places. And then we go into the prisons. What type of education is going on in the prisons? There's a total division. So it does begin with education, but it also begins with teaching children and also to be a little bit more aggressive in terms of getting this message out, media, and everything related to it.
Indeed.
Okay. Well, I definitely appreciate that, God, and again, I appreciate what you brothers are doing, sharing this knowledge and sharing this real serious information to the masses. And on that note, I'm gonna say peace.
Peace, God. Thanks for calling in, Lord.
Peace.
Looks like we have another caller. Peace, Bokim.
This is Bokim Allah.
Peace, God.
Peace.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to a couple different points that y'all had touched on. And I'll start off with what Ture had mentioned about, the street situation, where there's a lot of reporting going on where they're kind of publicizing the conflict, between black and brown in the streets of Los Angeles and stuff. Now, I live in Orange County, and the climate is a little bit different, even though the distance between LA and Orange County is not that far. But in Orange County, it's a very big Mexican population over here.
There's a lot more yellow seeds over there too, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I myself am from Puerto Rican heritage. And I'm an understanding seed myself, yellow seed. So. And I had my own troubles when I moved out here, and certain the Mexican people misinterpreting my body language and the way I spoke and stuff coming from New York, So, but I wanted to really just touch upon the gang activity, which is connected to the prison activity, where. I don't see it as much in the streets of Orange County. I don't see that conflict. I wanted to ask y'all if that is something that's evident, that division that's being publicized, because I honestly don't see it. Yeah. And I understand that one of the if not the biggest racial mix. If we could even say that, is what we call Blaxican. What people are calling Blaxican, where, black and brown people are getting together on all fronts and even in the bedroom, you know what I'm saying? We're reproducing. So I don't really see the division that's being publicized in certain news articles and websites and things of that nature. And I wanted to ask y'all, since you're in Love Allah, since you're in LA, is that something that's really evident?
Peace, God. Peace, God. It's Jerule. Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, when you look at the quote that I did, built on the beginning of the show, it said, "Divide and rule, the politician cries." So I think the whole science of the media really emphasizing the conflict between black and brown is to keep us divided. So any kind of small incident that you may see between two people, if it's a black and brown person, it's over publicized so that we look at each other like, oh, I can't believe that brown person did this, or I can't believe that black person did that. And
Exactly,
that keeps
yeah.
us fighting amongst each other while they capitalize on that and get rich off of us. So,
Right.
but yeah, we definitely appreciate the call, Bo Kim, and
Yeah.
and you know we'll build with you soon, God. Thanks for calling in.
Peace.
Yes, peace.
Peace.
So let's go ahead and pick it up from the Latin discussion. So we just got through talking a little bit about, why we don't refer to our people as Latinos. And that would also include Hispanic as well. So I wanted to go into this discussion about Amerigo Vespucci briefly, who was this Italian explorer who was credited with discovering South America and North America. Okay, so essentially through his discovery, the maps were changed during that time around the 1500s,
Okay.
and they were named after him, America. And this was by a German cartographer by the name of Wildse Müller. So here we have Europeans deciding what we are. They named us, and we have to remember that when these explorers arrived to the shores of South and North America, if they really did, they found people here. So they named them Americans, and here we are hundreds of years later, we're calling ourselves American after Amerigo Vespucci. So one of the things I want to really emphasize, okay, is that we're here to destroy all of those types of labels because they have a very negative connotation, all right? They are not who we truly are, and this is what we're teaching. We are teaching that not only are we black, but we're original people. So our existence transcends all of these labels. So if I'm sitting in a room with someone from Nicaragua and Africa and India, and everyone's saying that they're different, there's a problem.
Right.
Okay, and it goes back to the original essence of our people. We black.
Right. And when you think about it, before all of those names, you were black. They were black. We were black. So, yeah, I think that's important.
Indeed.
Definitely
I think,
important.
like you mentioned, though, we have these so-called explorers who a lot of times often were led around by black men, Moors, or whatever, showing them how to get to where they were supposed to go. They brought their pig with them. And they brought their religion, signified by the cross. And when you look at the cross, you draw that X, that's division, you know what I'm saying, and separation. And so, like you said, they come to some place, they name someone something else, and then they call these other people something else so that they think they're all different.
Right. No, that's powerful. I think it's important also to, we're not trying to bash Caucasians, but we're dealing with what, the truth is. The truth of the matter is. This is stuff that is actually actual fact. So, it's not like we're trying to bash and pick on anyone, but the truth's the truth. So, we got to just state it as it is.
That's what KRS One said, right? Truth is truth, whether or not you like it.
Right. Okay, so as we continue on, actually we'll get into another break before we go ahead and continue this dialogue. So peace.
Yeah, peace.
Peace. Here we're back on the Knowledge of Self Radio. Before we go ahead and get to this next segment, it looks like we have another caller. Peace, caller, you're on the line.
Yo, peace. This is a true Father Allah
Peace,
calling in out of Allah Zigzag Zig. Peace.
Peace, guys.
Peace. How are you? And can you tell everyone else where that is for those who don't know?
Yeah.
Yeah, Phoenix, Arizona. We call it. It was named Egypt out here because of the terrain. It's a desert. You know what I'm saying? But I just wanted to call in and say I appreciate what y'all doing. You know what I'm saying? Y'all doing a good job, and just to build on the whole concept of being called something other than what we truly are.
Peace,
you know what I'm saying?
God.
I homeschool my seeds.
Peace, God. Can you turn your radio off? You're getting a little bit of feedback there.
Hey, you know what, man? I'm like on Gmail voice, so I think that's probably what the problem is,
Okay.
man.
Pardon me. Go ahead.
Can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Just the whole thing with like being black, you know what I'm saying? Like the seeds wise, you know what I'm saying? Like my skin is brown, so why am I called black? You know what I'm saying? And that's why I like, real good hip hop, because the good hip hop is a good teaching tool. And I played Fear of a Black Planet by Public Enemy. They basically break down how, black man, white woman, black baby. White man, black woman, black baby, you know what I'm saying? Because it deals with the dominant gene and the Punnett square and all that. And I took them through like the whole science of it and everything. And when you say black man, everything is born out of blackness, whether it be the universe or the solar system or what have you, man. Like you can't say the sun. Things were born from the sun because the sun was born in space, and that space is black. Just like the babies are born out of the blackness of the womb. You know what I'm saying? And that's how I break it down to them. So like, and you can replace the word original with indigenous, dominant. You know what I mean? Like, that's the best way that I explain it to them. You know what I'm saying? Because black just means original. Because when you talk about Africa, you secluding yourself and you putting yourself in a box. That's just like one place. When we circumnavigated the whole globe, and everywhere the white man went, he found original people. You know what I'm saying? But the question I did want to ask was, can you guys go into the whole definition of what Asiatic means? So I think that's like a real good talking point right there.
Okay, peace.
Well, from my understanding, Asiatic is really just dealing with, it's another term for original. The original people of the planet were also called Asiatic.
Right.
Simply put.
I did do some research on that. There's two things I know. In our nation, we say Asiatic, meaning mind and body. But I did read at one point in time the world may have been called Asia. So to say that you're Asiatic just simply is the same thing as saying you're an earthling. You know what I'm saying? That's, the planet was called Asia, so you came from Asia, so that makes you Asiatic.
And peace, since this is on the heels of Allah's birthday, one of my big brothers, Born Supreme Master Allah from Now Justice, said Allah said that as I see, I act. That's how he broke down Asiatic. So it's like self-style wisdom. But essentially, if we're talking about the continental drift and we're talking about modern-day Africa and modern-day Asia, it's debatable in terms of if that was the original name of that particular part of the world. The reason why we identify ourselves with that, and actually the research that we have on China supports that, is that there is a large population of our people, not only that are in China, but they're also linked to those in the continent of Africa. So the thing is, we have to decide.
Right.
So I would decide to say that I'm Asiatic as opposed to African, because of their long history and their existence on this planet. And the numbers of people in a continent is typical of how long the people have been there, essentially. So that's how I see Asiatic.
Peace. Yeah, definitely. Good question, God. So yeah, as we move on, we're gonna get into the science of China and the Asian, basically the Asian or the yellow seated brothers and sisters. So yeah, basically we got some information. Ture, you want to take that? Sure. I know you're well versed in
all right. So I mean, again, we're just condensing a whole bunch of research into a really short show. So stay with me. But I always challenge the viewing audience to do research on your own. Again, we teach don't take anything on face value, even though we're presenting this information to you. It's always important for you to study it for yourself. But one of the first mentions of what we consider black people in Asia were a group of people known as the Nakais. And any of you who have the opportunity to read the 100 Amazing Facts About the Negro by J.A. Roberts, he had mentioned that some Europeans came across the Nakais in China, and they found that there were about 200,000 Nakais in southern China, and they were visibly original people or black people. And that's something that's not either widely publicized or it's widely covered up. One of the two. Right. It also, in my research, makes mention of an emperor by the name of King Ta. That would be someone you could look into. He was known as the emperor of the Black Dynasty. And it's actually he and his peoples in the 1400s which wound up developing this relationship with East Africa. So aside from that, I know we had an article from the LA Times that Jerule dug up, and I wanted him to just briefly build about that and how it relates to black people in China, which is, again, an oxymoron.
Jumbo shrimp.
It doesn't make any sense.
Basically, we took a quote from it. The quote that we took, it says, most of the population of modern China, 1/5 of all the people living today, owes its genetic origins to Africa. An international scientific team said today in research that undercuts any claim that modern humans may have originated independently in China. So this actually relates to another video on YouTube called, what was it called?
Oh, right. Chinese ancestors are African?
DNA proves that Chinese are African. So this ties to that because basically it just shows that when you look at the genetic makeup of the people living in China, it's basically you can trace that same genetic makeup to people living in Africa today. So, so how could you say that they're not brothers or related or connected in any way, shape, or form? So why would we say that we're African and Asian? Because, like I said, that's dealing with separation. It's showing differences there, but we are the same people.
True indeed. Also, I think the first couple of dynasties created in China were from Africa, like straight from Africa.
Yeah.
And what about in India? Jakir, you wanted to build on the civilizations in India that we classify as black, or that we know is black. Classify is not a really cool word. But I know there was at least one that we had built about. Could you tell them just briefly about the Harappan civilization? Just kind of add on.
Well, they're also known as the Indus Valley civilization. And so, honestly, just from the little research that I did, I understand that, for one, there's a huge connection between India and Ethiopia. And so, again, that's showing and proving the connection to what they call Africa and blackness in India. Other than that, the Hindus, the Indus Valley civilization was around 3300 to 13 BC, 1300 BC. And you guys
No, I think, even looking past all this, if you look at an Ethiopian and you look at an Indian, come on, they really they look alike.
The same,
you know what I mean? Like, could you really tell the difference? Like, if you didn't know. But yeah, like I think the Harappan civilization is one prominent one. Definitely do your research on them. They were very highly civilized. They had, they actually had like sewer systems. They had trash receptacles and things of that nature.
Is that pre-Rome?
This is
wow.
They go back 7,000 BC. Some even say
so you're
earlier
telling me that these people had sewers and all that before Rome? Oh man, that's unbelievable.
Right. But I think that definitely ties into what's going on in India now, because the Dalit people, or the Dalit basically means untouchable. they would be considered the black people of India, and they're treated very harshly.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So the original people of this area are treated the worst.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, you obviously can see that all over the planet. You know what I mean? I think that's something relative to what we're dealing with.
And I think, Zara, I wanted to just add on a really interesting speech or presentation, and also is written in written form, is by Dr. Runoko Rashidi. And he does a presentation titled Blacks in India, the African Presence in Asia. So that would be a really good thing to take a look at.
Right on. Also, there's another good series on YouTube that we posted on the Knowledge Yourself Radio link on Facebook. So you guys should tune in there and check that out.
What's the link again?
I don't remember the link offhand. That's why I referenced the site so you guys can have it there. But that's definitely a good one. He builds on, the untouchables in India, touches on Gandhi. He shared a good jewel on Gandhi that I didn't realize, that Gandhi wasn't necessarily fighting for equality amongst everyone as they make it seem. He was really fighting based on his class system. And like you said, the original people actually had no class. So I want to say he was like a so-called second class or something like that, which just means a lighter shade brother.
Right. All right. We're kind of getting to the end of the show here. So what we'd like you to do is, if you have some time, get on Google and look at some of the pictures of these people. First and foremost, look at the Kalahari Bushmen. Very important to look at them, because a lot of times Asians don't consider themselves black because they say, look at our eyes. Our eyes they're not similar. But if you look at the Bushmen, their eyes are, the same. So, you could look at them. You could look at the Melanesians. I think the Melanesians are important because some have straight, long hair, blonde hair, blue eyes, and those types of features, but also black skin. That's in the island region. You have the Agata people, which is AGTA, and Andaman people, which is an Indian people. So definitely take a look at them. That's ANDAMAN. So we're winding down, so let's go ahead and get into a little bit of health and fitness. Basically, one thing I want to say is, short and sweet. When it comes to eating meat, really rethink that based on the science of you're alive. So anytime you eat meat, it's dead. So if you're alive, why would you eat dead things? Without going into the science of it, you can go and look at the science of it on your own, but that's just a little jewel for you.
Right. I'll add on, and we'll post that video on our Facebook page, but there's a video called Meat Glue. And so even if, you don't want to be a vegetarian or a vegan, I would definitely look at that video and how they treat your meat. And you may think it's at, like McDonald's or Burger King, but, it's at high-class restaurants where they're taking old meat, gluing it with new meat, and feeding it to you.
Okay. Yeah. So, the last three things we want to leave you with is things that we want you to do, view, and read. First and foremost, if you can, stop eating pork. First and foremost, do some research on it. View Hidden Colors and the Human Tree. And read The African Presence in Early Asia by Runoko Rashidi. So, thank you for tuning in, and we'll get with you next time on Knowledge Yourself Radio. Peace.
Peace.
Peace.